All right, 6 o'clock, we got the regular meeting called to order. Have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Agenda's been approved. Now the consent items. We won't do those. Or have any questions?
I've got one small thing really. One of the minutes from last month. Yes, Jason Aker. Oh, sorry, Cass. I didn't know if that has to be. It does.
Yeah, try and get rid of me all the time.
Oh my God. Trying to not recreate the wheel. Thank you, Ashley. I'll fix it. And then the other thing I noticed, which is probably, I mean, it's a trend over every single year, basically. But is there something that happens every December that causes the December to spike? It's like year over year, there's like a bigger spike in expenses in December. And there was a little footnote in there this month, but I didn't know what it meant.
Well, December is generally the end of your semester. So yes, we could have tuition costs, and so that's what that little footnote is that's our career academy. Yeah, and so and I can if you go look at your bills under DMAC, it'll have it broken out like online, post-secondary, and then just secondary that or dual credits. Yeah, so anywhere between December, January, February, you're going to see some spikes because we'll be getting the open enrollment bills in or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
I think as every year, do the students, the parents pay for part of that DMAC?
No.
We kept that.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
Any other questions? Take a second.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor for the consent items, say aye.
Aye.
I say no. Consent items are approved. Correspondence for the month. Move on to public forum. It's like Sue and Doug are on the list. Do you want to go first?
I can't because it seems to play in with why he's here. I actually added more notes because there's more stuff on the news today that I kind of jotted down just for some context here. My reason for beginning with some history here of my experience is because of the background of Iowa schools and what I was dealing with like all the time. My kids were in school and then my grandkids, because it was so different from the concepts that education was using when I was in school back in the 1960s, and then things started changing. So that's my reason for including this background. I started attending the local board meetings here in the 1980s when I started working on the open enrollment legislation, trying to get that passed. And I realized that my kids were starting school then, this is very different because they made the change to memorization. And so that's why I spent a lot of time, and I wasn't talking about where we were at in the open enrollment legislation, trying to get some understanding of the difference between memorization and concepts and get the changes made. Well, I think you graduated in 97. You and Warren were in the same class. Okay. And then Molly was the next year here. And it didn't get changed by that. But by 2002, when we got No Child Left Behind, then the change started getting made across the country, setting standards higher and trying to get concepts back into the curriculum. So that's why this first paragraph of mine was trying to provide a little bit of history of the fact that we're still trying to get there, and some schools are ahead of others, and you were fortunate enough with Michael and here to get the reading at least back on track using concepts. And I mentioned that because of the legislation they are introducing now for reading concepts to get back on that, because that makes a very big difference. And it's 20 years past No Child Left Behind. But the other piece of legislation was the 2015 ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, because they made some significant changes to civil rights for students. That's where I get into the next part. And I've been communicating with members of both the House and the Senate Education Committee since last October on improving on the legislation they passed the last session to address harassment, bullying, and assaults, various things like that have been going on with schools for a long time here. And then we had the Perry shooting. Well, now it's not the only school shooting, but it's very big here. I grew up in Jefferson. That's 12 miles away from Perry. So yes, I used to know people in Perry. I know the size of the town. And it hits you very hard. If it hit Baxter hard, and you've already dealt with suicides in past years from things that are happening to students. So that's my reason for using this background here. And one of the things reported on the news this morning is the fact that you still have Perry students that are afraid to go back to school. But the only interviews I saw of students, it seemed to be from the national media, not the local media, where they were talking about the way that the one doing the shooting had been so harassed for years in school and how much it had affected that individual emotionally and just mentally setting off like that. That's a serious thing. Another item that was on the news this morning that I saw was that the number of students that are being taken out of schools for home schooling has almost doubled. And of the list of reasons, the absolutely top one was the safety in the schools. So schools have a very big safety issue. One of the people on the education committee, and several have been having email exchanges with me, explained that she works at a school, but she's giving the same rationalization, explaining that, well, you've got people in the community that just feel privileged and do things like this, but you have to have safe. So when you go out and research the ESSA website, you can specifically go to the civil rights violations that those are when you're not keeping students safe and doing things to help keep them safe, because when they're physically assaulted or when they're harassed, they are emotionally, mentally assaulted in essence. And it all has a negative impact on their ability to focus on the courses, so they're not getting the education to which they're entitled. That's where the civil rights violations actually start coming into it when you read it. So that's why in my op-eds that I've been writing, once again, moving off the curriculum onto this issue now, has been to tell parents and provide links to where they can go to file complaint forms at the national level and at the state level to have records of this, to try to get enough momentum going like it took for the curriculum to help students in school so their education isn't being as negatively impacted as it is now. And I won't get into one of the things I talked about the last time, because I'm not going to take up any more of my time here. But I was talking about a particular school program. Rob did give me the name of the one you guys used, but I have some additional suggestions of how it can be more effectively used and incorporated into other things that you're actually doing, that I can address that at an upcoming meeting with more details, just to give you some improved ideas for some discussions to have around the school when you meet with your teachers. And I've been getting those from a variety of websites that are also using these. So the whole idea is to try to keep students safe so they can get the best education possible. And I'm sorry if I took more than my 3 minutes.
No,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, we try to keep it. Thanks, Sue. Doug?
We'll talk about the safety when we're on the agenda, but I wanted to bring up, especially for the newer members, there is a legislative breakfast or meeting. They used to call it breakfast. It's a meeting now, starts this Saturday. The legislative session kicked off on Monday. Barb Neff-McCullough, which has the south side of Jasper County and on down to Knoxville, but she does represent part of Jasper, but John Dunwell and then Senator Rosenboom is going to, are all going to be there. The governor released her plan today. I'm sure you guys probably saw it, but 2.5% is what she came out with for monies. We had Senator Rosenboom up to 3% last year, but that got beat at the end. So I think the push needs to be on to let them know that the support's out here for 3%. I mean, 2.5 to me isn't sustainable for public school districts. You folks would know that better than most. But if we could get them back up to 3%, and the other one is, of course, safety and security. Their big plan this year is to give giant tax cuts again. They say they have this giant reserve. Well, Iowans, we pay taxes for services. And if the reasoning behind these shootings keeps getting blamed on mental health or lack of security at the schools, then let's spend some of that money on mental health services, but help us shore up these schools. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We as a small town and small school, we can't afford on our own a full-time school resource officer. We definitely can't afford metal detectors. But if there are other ways that we can work with, and if it's grant money coming through, we need to be doing some of those kind of things. So we want to get that conversation started Saturday. If anybody's available, it's 10 o'clock at the new library. The other one, I would like to kick off a conversation, and I know nothing can be decided tonight, but we need to start this discussion. A couple of citizens have approached me since I took over as mayor and asked if there would be any interest in making State Street full-time one way. Instead of saying during the day it's this and this, it's not, confusing everybody and somebody has to go out and put a sign down. My initial thoughts were, we have 4 residents and they would probably have a say in the deal. We have 3 driveways with 4 homes. It would be a little bit out of their way to have to go around, but not much. The school would have a back entrance by the bus barn, so it wouldn't be a hindrance, in my opinion, at all. And then I think most of the traffic goes this way anyway, coming off of that end of the school. And I would say a good time to start if we were to decide to do this. We'll have this conversation later, but would be at the end of the school year. Get everybody used to it when the cars aren't here, when the kids aren't here, get them going, and then when the school year kicks off, that would give a couple of months of people getting used to the fact that this is now a full-time one-way street. I'm usually not a proponent of one-way streets, they drive me crazy, but I think in this instance, it probably makes a lot of sense with, I know the issues that have had with drop-offs and parking and things like that, and everything could just be a steady stream going one direction. So maybe when we do our joint city school, when that can be the opening of the discussion. And if there's interest on the school board and the city, I haven't even put it to the city yet. I just wanted to, you guys tell me straight out, we don't want that, then we'll just leave it alone. But I think it's at least a good idea for us to start the discussion and go from there.
Like a good start. Yeah. Moving on to business items, so principals reports.
Gonna go? Sure. Since we've last sat here, we haven't had a lot of school. So, but I do have some things that are coming up and a couple highlights. So, first of all, just today, and Zach may talk about it, one thing that's just a great opportunity for our 5th and 6th graders. We go down to J Biztown, which is junior achievement. It's off 63rd and Grand. It's a whole facility that puts on a day in the life of a town, mayor, jobs, how you spend money, finances. Rachel was down there today. Scott Brummel put in a ton of time to make that happen today. And I know Miss Buckland and Mr. 80 as well. Just a great real world experience that I talk about all the time, how we can teach outside the 4 walls in a classroom. And that's a great opportunity for our kids to get a little taste of how a town works and finances and all that. So the second thing is we started last year academic decathlon. That Anna Brown brought it. She had been the academic decathlon coach in Des Moines for years. And it's really interesting without going down a really deep rabbit hole. We have 6 kids involved in it this year, and you have to have 2 from each level of GPA. So you can have 2 outstanding students, 2 pretty good students, and you still need a couple students that by GPA aren't outstanding to make up this team. And then they go and perform or sort of quiz bowl there's a lot of prep on the front end, but it's all the different academic areas from art to music to social studies and all the points. And we were a state qualifier last year. And we go this on January 25, 26. So I just think it's a great thing that our small school has jumped in on academic decathlon for kids. And of the 6 students, 4 of them, it's their only activity at school. So I always talk about kids and activities and being involved. So that's another great piece that we have 4 kids who normally would not be in an activity except for this. Another one that's great for us, we've been rolling with it for a few years now, is our speech. District speech is this week. We have 16 students involved in our speech competitions. It's broken down to large group and small group or individual. This week, Saturday, if the weather will cooperate, is district speech for large group, and we have 16 kids involved there. And we've had a lot of success in speech over the last 5, 6, 7 years. So that's Mr. Smith and his speech team. Having an awards assembly this Friday, again, knock on wood with the weather, we've delayed it twice. And that's an opportunity for our teachers to get in front of the student body and give some classroom awards. We vote on some improvement awards, students of the semester awards. So that's exciting to do, and that's coming up on Friday. And the last thing, something we've always worked on is that we struggle with, especially pre so much online learning, is new courses. We know we're up against it as a small district for course offerings, and how do we continue to provide course offerings as well as dual credit, where we're teaching it in-house and getting DMAC credit. So we have 3 of those brand new courses we're teaching this semester for dual credit. 2 of them are in our business area, small business management and human relations and management. Kids are receiving our business credit, school credit, as well as DMAC credit. We have an advanced animal science class that we're teaching second semester as well out there for DMAC credit. And then really exciting, our social studies teacher, who has extensive past history in law, is teaching an intro to law class. And we have quite a few kids that are taking that class. So just to get a flavor of something that may spark an interest, maybe in that area or coming off that area, but we're always looking for trying to get some new courses. So it's the kids that just aren't funneled into things that they're not completely interested in. So hats off to Travis for that. And he's constantly working with teachers and trying to find new courses to teach. So like I said, we haven't been in school much since the last time we sat here. We're ready to get back rolling. We're in the second semester, obviously. So questions?
I guess off of Rob's, I mean, like that, we haven't had school, but with that came the opportunity for our teachers to be able to put in some time on their own. And we call them work days that they do virtually from their homes. And we've really found a lot of benefit in that. I've heard nothing but positive things about the opportunity that gives them. On the elementary side, that was the ability for us to revisit some priority standards. It allows us to do some housekeeping things, looking at some documents about unit planning for our PLC process, tracking sheets, updating those. And really it all comes down to, we want to ensure consistency and efficacy within our PLC process. And a lot of times we have to showcase or show that we're doing some things. So updating those documents is vital to ensuring that we are doing those things. And so this has provided that opportunity for them to update some of those documents. And it's just something that, again, for us, it's about, we're trying to build collective teacher efficacy, right? That we're all doing the work, we're all putting in the time. This just allowed us to be able to showcase that there's other things that inside the classroom that allows that to be the best it can be. A lot of those documents are very much are liked in how we do things. So updating those was a success for our teachers. Beyond that, we also had a virtual PL with Colfax Mingo that was, I've heard nothing but great things, be able to collaborate with other teachers in like grade levels at another district. Sharing some frustrations, but also sharing successes, some of the good things that are happening in the school, different resources that we use that they don't. So it was a great opportunity for us to learn from another district, and Wendy did a great job of putting that all together.
Gonna jump in on that. That was supposed to be in person. We were out that day with the frigid temps, so hats off Michael and Salmon. Tim Salmon. There, when we got that done, I know there was a lot of work on the backside virtually to get that put into different Google groups and all of that stuff that's way beyond me. But the 2 groups I sat in that morning were outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And I think even more powerful when we do get to sit in together, right? And so to see the success from just the virtual and now what it'll be when we actually get into classrooms and sitting down together, which we have another opportunity in April to go to Colfax and do that again. So a lot of them even have set up times before then to meet again. So it was just a great opportunity for like professionals to meet. So the elementary stuff, we are going to an Iowa Wolves game, K through 5 on February 6th. It's a part of a reading program. A lot of our kids, we felt like we just needed to kind of build something more for them to get excited about reading. So the program is basically having them read 500 minutes. If they read 500 minutes, they turn in a sheet that says they read the 500 minutes and they get 2 free tickets to a Iowa Wolves game. It's a little incentive for them to read at home, but also it provides us an opportunity to take the kids to a ball game and enjoy that together as a field trip. So we'll do that on February 6th. This week and next week are our big fast testing weeks for the elementary. So we're putting together our screeners. The screeners will then help us prepare for data days. It'll be at the end of January. Those data days bring us with how we set up our win groups, the different interventions that we have to put together to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our kids. And so those are big days for us to kind of see where we are, to show that we're having progress. If we're not having progress, what do we need to do? And it kind of builds our whole programming for the next 6-week cycle. So over the next 6 weeks, we'll give progress monitoring graphs and we'll see if what we put into place is having an impact. If it's not, we'll make changes to that. So it's a big piece of what we do, our screeners. So, and then Rob mentioned Jay of Biztown, obviously a great opportunity, real world skills that our kids get to engage in. My wife didn't have as many things great to say about it, but she was a volunteer. They put her to work, or basically she had to work. So
I was there as well. It
Yes.
was slightly organized.
I'm in on that too, yeah.
Quick question on the fast testing.
Yes.
With school being out as much as it has
Yep.
been, do you anticipate that's gonna have a big impact on your screening? Will that throw off like goals for the next 6 weeks?
We hope not, right? But that could be an issue. We haven't really, we set them up in a way that at the beginning of the year that we try and eliminate that. So we come back from a break, we have an opportunity to have 2 weeks that we then need to do what we need to do. But ultimately, the screener is a dipstick. It's just trying to see where they are currently. And yeah, what the hope is that doesn't have an impact, but the reality is it could for some. So we're not trying to rush it. I've been the last week and a half to 2 weeks, I've said it, let's just kind of take it as slow as we need to. Let's not rush into things. If we need to find a sub or I need to cover to be able to get this done, we'll do that. But don't want it to feel like it's just being rushed, right? And so just trying to alleviate that. We have flexibility. We have till February 2nd to complete the screening. So between math and reading. So we have time. We'll get them all done, but we don't need to rush into it either. So kind of what we've taken, that's our approach.
Questions for you? On the safety and security plan update.
Truly added this, but the updates I can give you, I can't tell you a ton of information. I did have Tyler maybe reached out to me and asked about our plan and if we can make our plan public, and the answer is no. We have a plan, but we can't make it public. It's highly recommended against putting that on your website or anything like that, making it public for people to see or know. Just know that we have one. I've asked Chief Daggett to take a look at it. He's been doing some work on it. We found some gaps that we need to address. I was just at a safety debriefing yesterday with all the Jasper County. That monthly, we go to a superintendent meeting. It's all the superintendents and then all the local law enforcement, the chiefs of police, the sheriff's office. And we had somebody from DCI there, and we kind of talked through the Perry incident and and Heartland was there too. Some of the gaps that they found, some of the things that need to be better. And so it's definitely on the forefront of our minds. There's not a ton I can say publicly, but we have safety radios, and the safety radios we installed last year. Was it last year, Bill? That's what Perry used, with Big Red Button. That's what they activated. And so Bill has contacted the people that are in charge of that to make sure they know we're going to test them. Because if you hit it it opens up the network to the whole state, like every police scanner in the state has it, so we'll test ours, and all the districts were talking about how often should we test them, and there was some kind of variations, at least once a year, some people do them once a month, so they just talked about testing them. We found some areas in our building, just talking through this, that we're gonna address some like physical, vulnerabilities, we'll call it. I know as far as a safety grant, we've had, Mr. Pickett has done a lot of work recently installing several of the cameras and the servers. There's some that we are gonna install at places that it has to get warmer. If they're like out at the complex, we need to add some more cameras. And so the ones inside the building, he's added. Mr. Hanson, our head of buildings and grounds, has been in contact, I think today even, to get more lock. The old part of the building, the locks on the doors are just not as easy to lock as like the new doors, you just, hit the button. The old part is not that way. So he is called someplace in Marshalltown to get new locks. So there's things that we've all been thinking about, but this just also brings it to a head again. It's like at the forefront. And we know one of our vulnerabilities, like I talked with the police or the group yesterday, is the library. I mean, we have people walking in our building on a daily basis. So we just, but when that was put in, this wasn't a thing that anyone thought about. But it's just, we live in a different world now. So that's something that's, we're trying to figure out how to address that. So Bill has been wonderful to work with, and really appreciate his support through all of this. And obviously our heart goes out to Perry and Mr. Pierce and his family and their loss. So questions, not much I can tell you guys. You can just, it's a confidential document, but the teachers have it. The administrators have it. We all have it.
Right, real quick, on behalf of the city, I wanted everybody to hear it from me. We had to address some of this as well. And while you guys are working on that plan and some of those weaknesses, I've instructed the chief to not headquarter at the school right now. Because I think it would actually be safer to be able to give that call and get here instead of the possibility of that not going through. So I would ask that we be kept, I know the chief's gonna be in constant contact, that we as a city be kept in that circle as well. And once that is alleviated, then we go back to our sharing of the resource and then having him as a more constant in the building, but until then, for safety, number one, and liability, number two, I think it's best, I know it's best if he's outside the school so he can get inside the school quickly if he needs to.
One of the things that Doug's referring to is there's and I don't know the technicalities, Bill can help me, it's called a repeater. And something about in this side of this building, there's places that Bill's police radio doesn't work.
Correct.
And so if the other police officer trying to get a hold of Bill and he happens to be in one of those dead spots, it doesn't, it's like when you're in a dead spot with your phone, it just doesn't work. So it's just really expensive. And so we've been like, that's why we haven't got it in the past. It was when we originally got the quote, what was it, like $36,000.
It's 35, one's like 46.
So that was just so cost prohibitive, like the district couldn't do it. So now Bill and Julie have worked and we're looking at our save and our Pebble and trying to figure out where do we find the money to buy this piece of equipment to magnify the signal. And I might be screwing that all up. Is that
No,
pretty
you're
much?
100% right. So,
Okay.
so like where my office is right now, in my office, you get a solid tone on my radio. I can't pick up dispatch at all. The new fire chief is Kelly Milligan. He wanted me to pass on the last fire call they had here in the last weeks. When all the fire doors shut, the firemen couldn't even talk to each other in the building. Walking, because they kept signing off of the tower. So the system is basically a repeater. That's like the Wi-Fi system that's here. There's a central point and then there's nodes that are put in. So our radios are never dead. I think if any of you listen to the Perry radio traffic, extremely imperative that the officers and firefighters be able to hear each other and hear dispatch. So,
I mean,
yeah. And so Doug, in his first meeting was like, I know for a fact from the county that they've tried to reach you at times and had to call yourself up. What happens if that's an active shooter? So I would ask that you be here, but be outside the building so that you can hear dispatch or you can hear the emergency radio and what's going on. So I sent an email out to the administrators and said, I'm here. And if you need me, just call me and I'll come in and we'll deal with whatever, but then I'll go back out on the street. And then like tomorrow I'll take care, so.
Are there, in today's technology, is there radios available to us that can, when you're in the building, be on the frequencies you guys need, but use the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth of the school so that you're covered?
So that's a good question, and I'll have to ask Brad Schutz that because he's our Bluetooth enabler.
Okay.
So Michael and I have talked about the fact that this is a statewide radio. I can take it and be off and go to Davenport with my wife's family and literally have an on-duty officer be like, 381, 380, go ahead. I need you to call me. And it's amazing. These cost $4,600. They make ones that cost $2,500. It's about as low as you can get. But we've talked about having staff and the buses have them so that everybody's on the same frequency. There's no issues. They need me. They just holler at me. I have it in my scan. So yeah.
As I stated at the council meeting, I did want to start my first meeting with everybody, the narrative going out that I was against the SRO and joint partnerships because I'm not. But I explained to the chief and those assembled, in my different life, you have to treat everything like it's going to be a potential lawsuit. And I said, I can only imagine if there was a shooting situation and you put your hand up in the air, then you sit on the stand and they say, were you aware that there was no communication before? Yes. Did you do anything about it? Well, we talked about it. And they'll just start writing a big check. So that's the liability part that I'm worried about for the city and honestly the school as well as the taxpayer. But safety, number one, I think it's best until we get this figured out. We stayed outside the school up there, that's necessary. I wanted to clear that up amongst everybody here, so in case that got out there, we all know the root cause of it. Yeah. And like I explained to the mayor in the meeting, I said, I've talked with Michael and I've talked with Julie. Either there'll be money left over out of the safe schools money that the governor gave us, or we'll put it in the plan. I think Doug's intent is to let you all know as a board that this is a major priority. We need to get this done. So got to figure out where we can find the money. Grant.
You mentioned you were gonna look at.
I'm gonna see if I can get grants for it. Prairie Meadows is open right now. I'm gonna see maybe if I get 20,000 under from Prairie Meadows. So try that.
You mentioned the library, Michael, and we kind of had plans on a separate entrance, or where's that at?
Yeah, actually, I've visited with Bill today about all sorts of things, and he still just has the one quote because he can literally not get anyone else to come quote the job. And so we had the one quote and you guys wanted a couple quotes and it's been tabled because he can't get anybody else to come in and get a second quote. So that's his frustration and my frustration. So I don't know if we move forward with just the one quote at this point, or if we take some of that money and spend it on this. I don't know if we can spend it, or we can shift things around.
Bring me up to speed on this.
Okay, so one of the things that we had talked about was with this door, with the doorbell, when we got rid of the secretary, there's nobody there to answer the door and buzz people in. Plus they're coming in and they have, once you get inside that door, you have free access to the whole building.
Right.
So that's a concern. So what we had talked about was getting some locks that are like automatic locks, but it's a separate entrance that come in kind of at the flagpole.
Okay.
And so then they build a separate entrance that comes in right there and have a self-contained bathroom inside the library. So there'd be no reason for anyone, a community member, to need to enter the school. And so they could just leave that door unlocked. So the librarians could just let people in when they were here, hosting public library hours. But during the school day, no one would be coming in that door because I'm here sometimes, but I'm like, well, next year, 2.5, 3 days a week, you're not gonna have anybody sitting in that office even to get the door. So what we talked about was putting a separate entrance over there. And we wanted to get Bill got one quote, but we can't get a contractor to come give us another quote. It's just so frustrating. So the quote was around 40, gosh, I can't remember it. It was last year, was it
About
40,
50,
50,000 to put in the locks and the entrance, because you have to do like a double entrance, because you can't just have it just be a single door, because like days like this.
Right.
Icy cold air can't be just blasting into the library, so you have to have an entrance, and then a separate entrance, that little vestibule, and then the bathroom. And so it's kind of just been tabled because we couldn't get any other bids.
What are you gonna do? What was the plan with the other doors? 'Cause just because they come in through the one door, how are you gonna stop?
Yeah, so these doors were gonna be locked, and Greg worked with Walsh Doors, the company that does our the security. So they were working out different systems that was like a badge, kind of like the teachers use to get inside the building now, like a badge that you could open that door, that you could get in. There's, and you know, from this side, but not from the library side. There was also plan to like put it just an alarm on the door, so if somebody opened that door, the alarm would go off. There was lots of different plans, but there was never a really good plan. There's just not a good way to do it, short of moving the library outside of the school building. There's really no good way to keep it secure if you want to be able to have school kids coming in. And then you do all this, you know, keeping the school kids out. And then keeping the public, letting the public come in, but then when the kids go in there for library time, they're still mixing anyway. So there's really. It's like, is it a good solution to spend all that money and effort to put in a separate door? And then still have them,
So you still have humans that are going to open a door for somebody to be nice.
yeah,
There's kids that are gonna run in and out. You're not gonna prevent it because.
Well, you're still gonna have public come into the library to use the library while school's going on, so they're
Right.
mixing into the
They're
library.
mixing into the library,
Yeah.
but then that's what I'm saying, like, even if they come in off hours, they can get into the rest of the building, you know, nobody's gonna pay attention, but they haven't checked out.
Yeah.
And they can be loose in here
Yeah.
without anybody knowing.
well, and if really, I don't really want to say all this when it's live, but there's times that the door is unlocked during the day because of passing time. Because of the fact that we have students going to class across the street. Those kids have to have access to get back in the building after they go to class. So passing time, the door has to be unlocked for them. So they can get back in. So if you were a bad guy, you just watch that and see that that was, you know, so there's, when you don't have all your kids in one building, there's really no great way to secure it. So it's scary and frustrating all at the same time, but with the Perry situation, that happened before school, the doors are open, the kids are coming in for breakfast. Every school in the state, the doors are open before school, so kids can get in the building. Or I shouldn't say every school, but most schools, I would assume.
Right, that big gave her reports for the library to the city, and it says it's just a matter of time, we have to be realistic. Before they force us to split, or it's actually in our best interest, safety wise to split. If these things continue to go on, we're gonna have to be very vigilant on adults having easy access to any facilities like this, so. It's been a wonderful run, and I know nobody wants to have that conversation. We have to look at reality, and our reality is, you said in your speech, from the sixties to now, it's a different world that we live in. And sometimes it takes something like that hitting very close to home for everybody to just put a whole new thought process together, so.
And that might be something at our joint city school meeting, that before we jump ahead and spend, you know, $50,000 changing the entrance. If the plan is to find a new home for the public library, then maybe that's a better long-term solution than investing that money in the locks.
Or maybe it's a discussion about changing the public library hours to where they're just after school hours or on Saturday hours, or so that it's just locked down.
Or I don't know how much, I mean, there's a lot of options.
Yeah,
I'll just say that, there's options.
We're gonna have to make some very tough decisions.
Yeah, that is true, that.
Well, we're on this subject, it goes right in line with what we've been talking about. And I just want to preference, before I say what I'm gonna say, I fully support the rec and the AAU that goes on, that shares this space. But that has been on my mind a lot lately as well as, you know, what's going on at, you know, a lot of times rec or any of the other activities in town use our school at night. I guess my question is, you know, how are we keeping things secure at that time as well? You know, one of the things that come to mind is if we were to expel a student during the day for whatever behavior, he or she can they walk right back into these doors at night with a rec activity? And you think the worst, right? You don't, I'm not thinking the worst of the kids that are doing that, but I'm thinking the worst
You have
case
to.
scenario of who's walking through to make sure every last person's out at the end of the night before we're locking doors? Who is locking doors? I've been a coach on the rec side. I leave here thinking, well, I hope somebody else is closing things up. I mean, to be honest, and that's just one of the things I think we might have a gap there, and I don't have any answers tonight on how we fix that. But I think we ought to start talking about that.
Our night custodians, yeah.
It's a constant conversation.
Yeah, but our night custodians are supposed to be the ones that are checking the doors when they leave at night. But like you said, there's always kids in the building. This literally not in our district, but a local district, just within the last couple of weeks, they were having Sunday open gym basketball practice. And one of the kids put a rock in the door, so he had to run out to his car. And then forgot, like, he just left the rock, came back in, and like a mentally ill person got into their building and did all sorts of damage, and they had to do a sweep of the building the next morning to find out, to make sure there wasn't weapons or bombs, but there was, when they came into their main office, it had been crashed because this person had been in there in the building for lots of hours. And so it's a great concern. But again, it's like, we're a community school and a community, so,
Absolutely.
right, so it's like, it's this fine line between where do we close off the building and say only school.
Well, and I just thought maybe one quick solution that's mine is, if you're gonna be a rec coach, you're trained on at least with the, walk around with the custodian, the janitors, and just understand, what you're looking for, help, just another set of eyes, at night, make sure you take responsibility to help out and make sure everybody's out of school before you leave. I don't know, things like that we can help, so it's just not on one person, left at the end of the night.
I was coaching their basketball or even just dropping off kids later on, another coach, to me, it's like, okay, if your practice at 6:30, the building locks at whatever time, 5 or whatever. Practice at 6:30, coach is gonna be at that door from 6:20 to 6:30 to let kids in, the door goes shut, and it's shut. If you're late to practice, you're late to practice, where you call the coach and they come, whatever,
That's a good idea.
and then when practice is over, stays out,
You let 'em out.
you shut the door, locked it already, automatically locked.
Yeah.
I just think it needs to be a little more strict on maybe the rec program.
That's a good idea, Corey.
Making sure, we can't just prop doors open all the time, and Sunday afternoon or whatever, and I get it, kids are late and parents are late, but just need to be a little more.
And another just real quick one is, so like, in the last week with all the bad weather, school has obviously been canceled or ended up canceling school activities. Do we fall into a liability of any kind by letting the rec and AAU and some of those places use the school when we're actually ourselves saying it should be closed?
We've
Or is
never,
that
in the
okay?
past, we've always said rec is their own entity. So they get permission, they sign up for the school, so we don't control, like, that's how they can have practice on Sundays and they can have
They
practice on Wednesday
sign
nights.
an agreement, and
They're
they
not
have,
holding us accountable.
right, and they have to carry, 1 million, 2 million, aggregate in insurance in order for them to use it. So
That's fine.
that's not to say
As
that
a
we're not
parent,
gonna be
yeah.
helped.
Well, as a parent, I'm walking through the door the same way this last week thinking, hey, but then I step back and think, man, this makes sense, that we're here and nobody else.
We try to mitigate it as much as we can,
Yeah,
but that's not to say, we'll just fall behind that insurance. When their insurance runs out,
sure.
they're gonna
Yeah.
lock on to ours.
I think the only time I recall ever just straight up locking the school and saying no one can enter this building was during COVID. And we shut off all the doors, teachers' badges, nobody's badge. The only thing that worked was a master key. Like, yeah, you had to have an actual physical key, and there was only a handful of people that had those. Otherwise, the school was just locked down.
That's hard, you sit there and you can do everything you can. Like, you could have metal detectors, but that's impractical at every single door in this place. It's terrible to come to this, but
I'm gonna put my plug in. I had surgery last Wednesday, so I did a lot of online active shooter training. And the common theme that came out of it was the honorable gunfighter. takes on the bad guy. You're never gonna stop somebody from breaching this building, ever. The only thing literally that's gonna stop anything is having SRO on a consistent basis. Knowing that honorable gunfighter's there, and the kids knowing that they're safe and they'll talk to people. The one question I have about Perry right now, and still haven't, will eventually get answered, is what was missed? When did that switch in this kid happen? And what was missed? What did the SRO miss? What did the administration miss? Did they miss anything? But,
They interviewed another student who was friendly with this one, and she said that she could tell that there was a change in his demeanor like over the last few
but
weeks.
wasn't comfortable enough to go to a staff member or the SRO and that kind of stuff, so. We have amazing kids. You guys really do have amazing kids. I could go off my tangent about that, but I've never had juniors and seniors ask me when I first came here if I plan to stay. So they like their community police officer. So as we move forward, you'll hear me start coming to board meetings and having conversations about how do we make that happen as a joint effort between the city and the police department. Because, you know, the young ones that were killed in Connecticut, he just shot the window out beside the door was secure. He shot the window out and walked in. This young man was in the bathroom. Just, you're only gonna stop the active violence when it happens with the honorable gunfighter.
Well, and even for this young man, even if it was during the school day, they would have let him in.
Yeah.
Because he
Yep.
was a student,
Yep.
so.
Yep,
I think too, you know, it's maybe more parent involvement too. I mean, school can't do it all. We can't raise kids, right? So like that safety fair last fall, I think
that was
that's a
really
good start, you know,
Yeah.
having parents come in and just look for signs and see if they see different signs. And try to talk to their kids, you know. Kind of lost already, and we're talking to your children, right? So it's maybe a little more community involvement on, you know, maybe post more events like that. I don't know.
I saw the interview that you were just mentioning, that same girl had one other comment, but I just, we're going to have to get into this. She said, we should have stood up for him more as students and protected him from the bullying. I thought that was an important comment that was being recognized, because when you start looking at things like this, you can say things, and sometimes you see it differently than what you've been seeing.
I appreciate that. Thanks for our seniors. I think it's very important that we are proactive about recognizing the behavior, because you can't stop. Somebody really wants to get in, we're too late. So how do you be proactive? What are the signs? Are there, like, can the counselors put together things that they can send out on a monthly basis of, hey, here are things that you can try from an interaction, or here are things that are of concern. I know we get those occasionally, but like, are there things that we can do more routinely, or check-ins, which I think that's all you can do.
One thing that we did was like last year, that we did a training through the FBI, and it's called CSTAG. And it's used to evaluate threats. And so I was trained, Bill was trained, Hass, Rob, Mr. D, whole team is trained on how to, this is more like if you have a kid who makes even just like I'm gonna blow up the school threat, but they say something off the cuff, then you can bring them, you go through, there's a whole protocol of research based, this is how you do it, these are the questions you ask, and there's like a flow sheet, and we have files that are listed as CSTAG, and then we have, kid's name, and then there's documentation of, we had a conversation about this kid. He said this thing, and we, deemed it a non-viable or non-credible threat, or some of them we've deemed as this is a credible threat, and then you call law enforcement or call parents, call mental health. So we do have this system and a small team trained. So, but again, it's not the same as having just a counselor sending out, positive things or like things to parents. And, thankfully we were able to add, in the last, since COVID, we've added 2 counselors to our building. We used to have just one K-12 counselor at risk, did all of it. And now we have 3 people. I mean, granted, Mrs. Halter is only half-time, but we still have 3 people in the building doing the work that used to just be one person. And if you ask them, if you ask anybody, they're swamped. They're definitely busy with, just all the stuff going on with kids and families.
We've had a lot of good things in places over the years too, and legislation's making it a little bit harder now too with surveys and seeing how kids are feeling day, who they're connected to in school. Surveys that we've used for years that now in order to do, we have to ask permission. And so now sending out permission slips and forms to parents that then need to be signed and sent back. And if they're not signed and sent back, then I can't give the survey, especially in the whole group. So some of the things that we've had in place that have really, I think, been beneficial to knowing how our kids are feeling and what their standing is and every day are being harder and harder to get to. So it's a little piece of it too, a little piece of the puzzle that now is harder than it used to be even a year ago.
It seems contradictory to their goals.
Yes, it really does. Like even the conditions of learning survey that we talk about so much, we're always so proud of how our conditions of learning survey. Is it going away altogether or just the?
That's how Wendy portrayed
Yeah,
the chatter is that that's not.
Yeah, it just
It's
won't
like
be,
we talk on both sides.
yeah, so it's frustrating. It does seem to, like, we recognize there's a problem, but we aren't allowed to dig in, so it's.
And
It's
like,
a-
when is the bullying happening? That's the other thing. Is it mostly in between classes? Can you have volunteer elderly people or just that are trained that can just kind of wander through to try and.
We don't really have a lot of bullying. I mean, honestly, if we have anyone like Rob and Zach, as soon as we hear about it, they deal with it immediately. We've had 0 people fill out bullying paperwork this year, correct?
I've had one.
We've had 1 person fill out bullying paperwork. So as soon as we ever hear about any bullying, we always get right on it because we do agree that it's very serious. But again, we can't be in every place at every time. And if kids don't tell us about it or don't tell their teachers, they go home and tell somebody, that's fine, that we want to hear about it, but we can't solve it if we don't hear about it right away so that we can dig in and start addressing it. Because I would give high kudos, high praise to Rob and Zach. They always, as soon as they hear anything, they deal with it. I've seen, kids pulled into Rob's office with suspended kids for something that it's not even really classified as bullying because there's a definition of bullying. And oftentimes what these kids are doing doesn't even meet the definition of bullying, but that doesn't mean we don't address it. We absolutely address it. So I don't want you to get the impression that there's outrageous bullying at Baxter because it's just absolutely isn't. If you look at our conditions for learning data, it's very good compared to, you put us in any school in the state, I put our data against anybody's.
And I think, wouldn't you agree that a lot of it stems from social media?
Boy, right now, knock on wood, our social media bullying was definitely higher pre-COVID. And I don't know why. It was really bad. And it was one of those hard things because when you're dealing with it in school, it's not easy, but you can deal with it. Then the fine line, we meet and it's like, what can you do if someone puts this out on Facebook? Is it continuous? Are they calling this kid out? Is it a text? Is it a group text? When it's outside the building, it doesn't take as much priority. We're just trying to fix
School hours.
that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's hard enough to deal with 8 to 3.
Yeah.
We're dealing with 8 to 3 the best we can. Either Sue or Ashley said there's a program called Restorative Justice that is really a lot of the bigger districts are involved in, where it is the students taught how to handle those with other students because it is overwhelming. The number one thing you can do to fix it is if your peers take care of that kid and stop it right then, or there's a way to follow through that we want to talk about this. We're really good about see something, say something. That's kind of the one that it's hard to deal with it if we don't know about it. If we know about it, we can start to work it. It was also really nice last year to have Scott. He handled a lot of things we only had the one counselor, so he handled our whole 6-12 at risk. A lot of those kids that are being affected became at-risk students, student success group meeting. You could ask Dennis, he and we've done more this year, but we didn't have that previous, but it's constant. We've talked a lot. Michael said, the one that if I was reflecting on where I spend a lot of my time, it's kids that will say something that you don't believe they really mean. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to shoot you. I mean, things that, and it's out of anger, it's out of a moment, but we have to do due diligence and document it and talk about it and contact a parent. That's where she says, we follow through with those and then we deem them not credible, or maybe bring somebody in. Hey, do you want to make sure we're feeling good about this kid who, and it's usually a go-to out of that kid. He's saying it multiple times and now you're dealing with counseling or, there's all of that. It's a different ball game than it was 5 years. I mean, it's a different ball game with mental health than it was. A lot.
I just wanted to quickly say, and I can only speak for myself here, but as a parent, I think you guys do an amazing job. Like, I don't even for 1 second think about during the day, I know my kids are safe here in this town and the school. I think you guys do amazing. Just as a board member, we sit here and I ask those questions, but if we don't keep it on the forefront of our minds and stay proactive, I don't want to ever regret not at least doing everything we should be doing along the way. So, but that's just so we stay top of the line, like you say. But as a parent, you guys are, I think, doing an outstanding job.
Yeah, the partnership with the city and Chief Daggett is, and you guys are in there every day, but just from the outside looking in, it seems like it's just an enormous help benefit to the schools. So
I mean, we're a team. And, probably Michael didn't hit on the CSTAG isn't about getting anybody in trouble. Most of my job here is not about getting kids in trouble. It's about helping them, helping staff. It's the kids that are in crisis need us. And we need to make sure we catch them. Done this 37 years old. Started 4 separate SRO programs. At Waukee, I stopped 3 school shooters, students, or violent events, because we were able to identify the student, do home studies, mandate psychological evaluations. I can do more than they can, saying, hey, you're not coming back to the building. The police chief, they'll handle the education side of it out there, but you're not coming near my kids until we make sure you're okay. So, yeah.
Anybody else?
I just think that we should continue to discuss this routinely, I guess, to keep it at the forefront, see if there's different opportunities that have cropped up, different ways that we can find support for everybody.
Do you want it recurring? Yeah, do you want it on a monthly basis,
I
or a
mean-
quarterly basis?
Open up for discussion.
What do you think would be good?
I'd be good with quarterly, since I
I
kind of.
think quarterly. I mean, we can always ask for an agenda item if we need to come in and ask for something, because obviously I'm gonna want to have a conversation about, just preface it with, I've got an officer, Officer Wynn. Has anybody met Officer Wynn? Asian officer. Kids love him, like him more than me. I admit that, I'm the old guy. I've got him slated to go to the academy. And so my goal would be to partner in some way between the school and the city to facilitate that officer being on duty at night, which would address night safety things like checking doors at 11 o'clock to make sure that everything's shut off. Partnership working toward one goal, making sure it can be safe. And for those of you that I don't publicize this, besides the rifle that is in my patrol car, I have a go bag that has a 5.7 rifle in it. Scope, all of that stuff. So like if I think there's an issue, I can just bring it in for them. But none of the kids don't know what it is. It looks like my backpack.
I explained Monday that I'm going to be a very hands-on mayor. Some people operate differently, but I'm gonna have my fingers in everything and be active and try to get some of these things going. So we're gonna hopefully keep very proactive, symbiotic relationship going, not only between the two of us, but Bedco, early learning center, the whole thing, just keep tying all these together to do the best for everybody. We've I think just everybody's kind of drifted on their own thing a little bit lately for whatever reason. I think COVID was a part of it. We all just had to survive on our own, but I'm really looking forward to getting back in and getting things tie it back together and keep these discussions going like this.
Yeah, if there's ever going to be a discussion with the city that's off cycle of when we're doing the team, we talk about it. Let's add it to the agenda anyway, so that we're talking about it at the same time.
It's a great segment.
Say it rolls right into our next agenda.
Are y'all okay with quarterly? Are y'all okay with quarterly then?
Fine, sounds good.
Okay, so I'll put it on for the April agenda, Doug and Chief, so you'll know it'll be our April meeting.
Would it be possible for because the teachers are having regular meetings for them to take up some of these topics and that their discussions or conclusions could be a part of the quarterly report when you put it on the agenda, because they're actually acting a little more.
Yeah, if they have feedback or if they wanna, if they don't want to or cannot come, ask or somebody can bring it in, that would be,
Yeah.
helpful.
Thank you all for
Yeah.
coming.
Well, the joint city school work session.
Well, it sounds like we were gonna have it. I reached out to Katie and she was gonna talk with the city council at the next board meeting, but she said it wasn't until February 12th. To confirm that you guys still want to have it, but it does sound like the city still wants to have it as well. The corresponding date would be April 10th from last year, and it's our turn to host it here.
And I think you can't be there on the 10th.
Can't on the 10th, but if I'm the only one out of everyone that can't make that work, then.
Well, I mean, we just
It'll be the way
picked that as a
yeah.
corresponding
It was a
date, so it's
corresponding
not a
date.
big
Yeah.
deal. We could certainly pick a different. I think the city council, they're Mondays. Are you guys meet on Mondays?
Second Monday.
Second Monday.
Are you just monthly?
Yes, we are not going back to 2 meetings. We're gonna do better business done.
April, May.
No.
Crunch time.
Yeah, it's the way it takes
I think
time.
last year I messed it all together, so.
But do you want to go effective March? Like,
We're kind of busy in March. But even if you went like the first week in April, is that too late still?
can't really mind the push that. I mean, we talk. How do you like if I know that?
Are you?
7 years later.
Are you guys affected with 7/18 like we are with that extra meeting? I mean, when you think about that too. So
Oh, with the budget?
That goes,
Yeah.
that goes to April now, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're due end of April now. We were April 15th, but now we're April 30th, so it helped us delay, but we just have to have another meeting. So we'll have so in March, our meeting will actually be a week later.
It's March 27th.
Yeah. So it's the fourth Wednesday instead of the third, so that we can have our.
Could we pick a preferred date and then a backup date in case we have 3 council members that can't be there too, then I can come back and say this will work better. Instead of us just keep going back and forth.
Does everybody have their calendars with them? Cause they could call in. Yeah. So you're saying, Corey, like March and Don, that'd be, are there farmers on the board or the city council?
We're all steady kids. but
Now you got spring break in there and you got.
Yep, so we have our work sessions this week,
What about like
spring
the-
break this week. We don't have anything this week. It'll be our first month, our first week back, and then we'll have our board meeting here.
Is April 3rd too late for you?
Give it a shot.
April 3rd, does that work for people?
That's a preference, is that a preference? And then if you can't do the third, then what are you doing? You gonna do the third week in March?
Don't we have a board meeting?
No, that's the fourth week.
So we don't have a board meeting on March 20th.
No, 27th.
So could we just do March 20th instead?
Well, we could. That's just our first week back from spring break and it's a little crazy.
Okay.
Makes, that could be our second choice.
Oh,
That's fine.
yeah, no, Rob will be gone then too, probably.
Yeah.
If that's the school trip.
You gonna be.
Same school anyway.
Oh,
Out this year.
Well, you have, but you, do you
well-
want to?
well, we could do, what about March 26th? It's a Tuesday. Like, I'm looking at my calendar and I've got nothing on that day. What about everybody else?
Throw me in between sports at that.
I think we are, because track wouldn't have started yet, right? They'd have like track practice, but they wouldn't have track meets yet.
Practice all started, but not meets.
Is March 26th, would that be a better first date? Are you back from Washington yet? Or no, York? Does
Yeah. Yeah, just-
I think that's a better second date unless you guys
that work for you,
don't like
Doug?
it.
Yes,
So should we say backup date, March 26th?
Yeah.
I will send a note out tonight. Everybody, make sure that fits, our calendars, we'll just get her
I'm
dialed
gonna
in.
get sick of this.
Corey, what's the date you're going this year to DC yard?
I think it's Tuesday and Saturday.
Friday end of the break, like
Oh, yeah.
Tuesday is break starts, it's Saturday, and then they have one more day of break.
So, yeah, you got spring break.
We're going,
And then
oh,
weekend.
we're going the next
Yeah.
week after, so you're back a
So
day.
first date's April
First date's April 3rd.
26th is back up.
Yeah, leave
You
the
got it.
19th.
I'm actually going to
Usually goes an hour and a half. I think we start at
During spring break.
6 or 6:30.
Should we say 6? I think right now I've got 6 to 7:30. I just copied last year. Yeah, to 7:30. And we'll do it here. Last year we did it. We have actually over 3 years. So we'll host this year.
So one thing that was brought up and discussed, and I haven't been for the last few years. So we'd always get together, the school would say everything's great, the state would say everything's great, everybody say everything's great, and then we ready to break, everybody comes back their way. We have talked, we want a more comprehensive, what are we doing? What's the goods? What's the things we can work on? What can the city do for the school? What can the school do for early learning center? What can Bedco do for, what can we all do for Bedco, all of that? Have all the players there, just do a deep dive as far as where are we at, let's reboot the computer. We have such energy, if you haven't been to a Bedco meeting, we have such energy now at Bedco, and they're fired up, they're getting things going, we have to get holes poked in the ground. That's the only way our taxes are gonna go down, either cut services or get more growth. So they're working on the growth, we all have to concentrate on 718 and driving down the levee, the best we can. It'd be a lot easier if we had some more houses out there, but I would really like to take this opportunity, not just, we all know we're doing great things. What can we do together and in a better manner to get some of these things moving forward?
Work session, not an update.
Absolutely.
You may remember back in your day, we would set aside 5,000 every year and the city would set aside 5,000 every year for a joint. The city hasn't done that for quite a few years.
Okay.
And I know whenever we do say something about it at the joint city school work session, it's already too late. Because of when you guys have your work sessions for the budget being in February. So just gonna put that in the back of your mind while you think about that.
We did do a joint
Yeah.
project together last year and we took all the, what do we have, 20,000 sitting in an account from so many
Yeah.
years? And then the city matched it and we used it to put the parking lot at Shady Park.
I mean, we haven't done it yet,
Yeah, well, they've done a lot of it.
but I haven't paid
Yeah.
a bill yet.
Oh, okay. But that was the first time, I think in quite some time that we like done a joint project. So Doug, maybe you and I can email back and forth and kind of work on a Google Doc as like our kind of working agenda. And then I can share it with these guys, you can share it with the city council. And then we can just make sure it's something, because we're gonna do this, like you said, it's not an update session. Like, let's dig in and like, let's start to work on things together and like really make that partnership solid.
And as a councilman, I would ask the school board to make sure that on the agenda that we have between the school and the city, that this safety issue is one of the top priorities. I think everybody here, and when Doug gets done talking to the council at the next council meeting, there should be some pretty good ideas floating amongst all of us that we might be able to put some stuff on paper and work back and forth to get some things done. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there, but when
One thing we created, organizations as a whole, and not just any, but the city in particular. Talk and talk and talk and talk, say, well, let's talk about it next month, and then we go to the next month, the next thing you know, not saying nothing was getting done, but. A lot was just either falling through the cracks, wasn't getting done, so we've created a task list, and as we go through the meetings. we're putting down the task. So at the end of the meeting now, we're going to sit up there and look at the deal. Here's the task, here's the sign, here's when it's due, and it'll be, is it done? And if those dates come the next, and we're all gonna talk over it. And at the end of the meeting, we motion to approve, second, all in favor, aye, and you go away with that list. And if you come back the next month and it's not done, you better have a darn good reason. Because we're gonna do action items, not just let's talk, let's talk, let's talk. And Smitty is correct, I think the chief will back it up, that the number one coming out, we had a 3.5 hour meeting to kick it off, and I promise that won't be the same every time, but we had a lot of stuff to cover, but the number one deal was safety. And so we'll stick with that, I pledge that, along with these two, that's why we're all three here tonight.
Got a date, then,
I'll send it out, I'll contact you, let you know, where we're at, we'll get her locked in.
Because the third is their primary date. correct?
yes.
Yeah, April is our first date.
Third is primary, March 26th is the fallback.
Yep.
All right, we'll let you know. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Well, they're leaving, I'm gonna ask. Does the board want the SRO at the meeting, at your meetings for security and safety at all?
Regular meetings.
I would,
You don't think so? Okay, I'm
I mean, I
at.
appreciate you all.
Try that
Yeah,
every
yeah.
day.
I think for the months that we do that update, it would be great.
Thanks, though. Thank you.
Well,
All right, move on to the board work session.
Oh, okay, so this is just also corresponding dates, March 4th and March 6th. And we usually do these for, from 5 to 9 each night. And the first night we focus on academics and the second night we focus on budget. And so on there is just last year's agenda, so you can just take a look at it. So over the next month or so, if there's something you want added to that, let me know, we'll add it. If there's something you're like, I don't want to talk about the curriculum cycle matrix, whatever. Just let us know and it's a working document for now, and then we'll talk about these things on those 2 nights. It's usually pretty good.
There's a lot of stuff that gets hammered out in these deals.
It's exhausting. It's 2 long nights of work, but it's good work.
We used to do like a full day Saturday.
Yeah.
I think I too much. Because
Kim's
by
daughter had.
5
cancer,
o'clock, you're just like, I got that.
Like,
I gotta shut it down.
So it kind of made it, so now it's like, the first night you focus on all curriculum, academic things, that really is kind of a nice thing, and then the second night, we really focus on all like budget, dollars and cents kind of things. And usually by then, there's a little more, we might know what, SSA is going to be.
Oh, yeah, we should.
And we usually had, we may have had some start of negotiations. I mean, there's just some of that kind of stuff. So it's a good time to figure out, okay, here's how much money we're gonna get. And then by then we should have the new soup and principal hopefully hired. And maybe that's something they can even sit in, something like that, just so they know we can, talk through some of that logistics. Or maybe I'll just look.
Not getting up that.
So are those dates good with everybody? They're just also the corresponding dates. So just know in the next couple months, we're gonna be like together all the time. It's just these few months are when it's just crazy. But it's good work, but we're together a lot. Cause in February, we typically do the board tour.
Yep, before the board meeting.
So next month at 4:30, I think.
Yeah.
We usually, the board comes early and then we just walk around and you can, look at the building. I mean, we can have Bill, here. It's usually handy to have him walk around with us and point out things, or if you guys see stuff you want to talk about, or questions you just want to dig in and ask him because he's not here most nights.
Can you send the questionnaire beforehand out
Yeah,
to all the teachers
teachers.
and that, so if they have a bad tile in the room or something, it's on that sheet, so when you walk in a room, it's like,
You know,
kind of know what to look for,
Yeah.
yeah.
On the February 1st.
We do, and that's on my, down in my report.
Okay.
That I want to talk about.
All right. That's good.
So do you want to talk about
No,
that?
we're
or-
later.
Okay, so any questions about that? So just take a look at that agenda, and if you have questions about anything, let me know. Like, just know that anything that's on there isn't updated. It's all that last year's stuff. That's just a copy. And then we work from that. Unless you've updated it. I have not touched it. I just copy and pasted it.
open.
just to give you a little excitement, I think I'm gonna take one of those things off there, so it's in my area.
Okay.
Well, into open enrollment.
So we have an application from Nick and Sarah T.G. for their daughter Hallie. She's a preschooler and, their other daughter already goes here, so this is just a formality. She's our school nurse, so, she's coming to us from Newton. So we'll approve that one.
To approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no.
And then, sorry, and we have a application from Brenna and David Grinder for their son Sebastian, from Newton. And I'm recommending we deny this one because appropriate, programming and classroom space is not available for that child. So, our special ed program is at its capacity. And so the last several years, if we have, someone that applies for open enrollment that has an IEP that has any kind of significant needs, we deny the open enrollment because we don't have the staffing and we don't have the paras to help with that. So, that's why we're recommending denying this kid's application.
I'm always just curious on this, is funding not, is there not enough funding that available by the state then for us on those students?
Well, then we can build that district, but the amount of resources some of these kids take, I don't know anything about this child.
Sure.
But sometimes the money that we get, it doesn't cover it. And there's such a shortage of special ed teachers and paras that even if we had all the money in the world, we still couldn't find somebody
Understood.
to, our teachers rosters are at capacity.
Okay.
So that's why we.
Personnel.
Probably a staffing.
Yeah, so when we say classroom space, it's not like the room is too small, like the teacher's roster is full.
I'll make a motion, we deny the open enrollment application.
Second.
I'll second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Enrollment has been denied. Personnel.
So, Mr. Teesling, our business teacher is gonna resign. He's gonna retire, semi-retire. So, we need to approve that one. Want to do them separate? Yeah. Okay. So,
So we have a
great
motion.
guy, but I get it.
Yeah.
When is this time? Let me talk to Rob. When is this time? When is this time?
Retire. We have a motion, we have a second for the resignation.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. Resignation been approved.
You're just gonna keep coaching.
At least one, I think.
A contract for Ian Thompson. He's a Baxter grad for his assistant high school boys track coach.
Motion to approve. Correct.
Has he got his
Does he have a
coaching
coaching license?
credentials?
Does anybody know? Oh, yes, Julie's saying yes.
Last month we were waiting, right?
Which is middle school basketball for Newton right now.
Second. Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. Contract been approved.
And I apologize, I just have one quick question that we could talk about in another meeting, but for our coaches and for our non-teaching staff, do they go through the same required, like, safety protocol, CPR, like, what training are they required to go through?
Yeah, so they have to have a coaching certification, just
Part
like
of that
anybody
is
else.
the thing.
But they don't necessarily all have Alice training unless they're,
No, they wouldn't
have
yeah.
that. They'd have like first aid and CPR, like
Mandatory.
whatever you. that kind of stuff.
So at least the coaches do, but then like our custodial staff do, or parents, do they all have to go through similar?
They're all mandatory reporters, anyone that law changed last year, I think. And so anyone that works with kids in our school has to go through a mandatory reporter training. Everybody goes through bloodborne pathogens. And if you're not a coach, you're not required to do CPR. Like, I'm not currently CPR certified. I mean, I know how to do it, but I'm not certified.
Our paras are, quite a few of our paras are trained for like seclusion and restraint. They go through the seclusion and restraint as well as our teachers.
And there's a whole list of required trainings that they do every year. Some are like, child abuse is every 3 years,
3 years.
but some of them are every year. They have to recertify.
Do you, Julie, have to keep track of like
Julie.
the recertification?
Yeah.
So I thought we said we shared district, like HR with another district with.
Yeah, that's another conversation.
Like. you have to keep track
It
of
comes
that.
through like
a
a
lot
year,
of
but
it comes
like you
through.
can get on your AEA account and it'll tell you, like, I can see all the classes I've taken and when my certification expires. So we print out the certificates and just Julie puts them in a file.
But then like, when it expires,
They don't know. I have to let
The
them know.
DE, does the
That's what I'm
DE
like,
send
you
you
have
or
to
the
try.
AEA? Somebody sends does the DE send a report when your license is gonna expire?
Not that I know of. I mean, we've had teachers, their license expired until I tell them. Hey,
so that's on you. I figured that was an HR function to keep up with.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
If
Okay.
the AEA goes away,
That
there's gonna be a whole.
there will be a,
Whole other can of worms that we're gonna have to deal with as a small.
because they do a lot of the training. They're the only ones that do.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we all need to go to the hill. No, that's a big change, big thing to talk about.
Facilities grounds transportation.
I'm gonna let Julie take this one because she kind of put all that in there and talked with Bruce and.
Yep, so this
finished all
all
this.
has just kind of snowballed over the last couple of meetings. It started out with the wellness committee coming to me, and there's basically like 3 people on the committee. We've got machines that are broken down there. We really don't have any security or safety oversight down there. No students or no children are supposed to be in there under 18 without a parent, but it's happening. And things are getting broke and there's really no accountability or any of that. The wellness committee, with them being three people, they don't feel like they really can fundraise. Besides the fact that the school's hitting them up, hitting the community members up all the time for other fundraising efforts, and they're not up on that. So they had actually gotten a quote to upgrade the door with a better system to let us monitor who's in there, whose card is being used. We'll put some cameras in there to help us with more accountability. But we're also, they also requested that maybe we charge those people who are using it. It was in the original bylaws or whatever that they didn't want to charge for a place like that. They wanted our community members to be able to have a place to go and, not be another Anytime Fitness where you have to pay a monthly membership fee. I think those days are gone. But sort of, they presented it to me as, what if we ask for $50 a year? If we have 20 users, that's $1,000 a year, which would help with, maintenance and, just that kind of thing. So that's where we are. The quote that they brought to me, I was a little bit concerned about. Only, it was $3,500, just under $3,500. And it was a system that was completely separate from anything that we had. So somebody else was going to have to learn to use it. Somebody was going to have to monitor it. Somebody was going to have to man it. And they volunteered to be those people who did that, the wellness committee. I don't know that that's a good thing because so many people change over the time in those wellness committees. And I mean, it's just a constant, turnover. So I got to thinking about it and I thought, well, what if we use our existing security company that gives us the access to the school? put one of those, access readers on that door. But can we, does our existing system have the ability to monitor who's in there? Does it have the ability to bill people because, for this $50, that kind of thing? Or can we shut it off if somebody doesn't pay, or if we find, between the cameras and the login, can we tell who broke something and we can turn that off, or we can hold them accountable for it in some way? We just needed to know all that. So I had Bree reach out to our security people, which is Walsh Doors, and yes, we can add just another reader on there, and it's $28.85, and it'll do everything that we want it to do. And then, like for 100 new cards, it's $400. So we have in the Education Foundation, we've had people making donations through there. We're up to, it's just over $2,400 that we haven't spent. It's just been accruing in there. That when Bruce came in, we had that conversation, and he felt that, it was, the donations were specifically made for Wellness Center. So he felt confident that we could move that money over to the school to help pay for the security system or these upgrades, if that's what you wanted to do. Stacia just came in today and was, wanting to know where we were and all this and all that good stuff. I believe, if I remember right, somebody made a donation through Bedco as well.
I thought that was,
3,000?
it was 4,000. I
4,000?
thought that was for the security.
Well, it could be.
Supposed to have been for the security.
It could be, that's perfectly fine, but then we'll take this 2,400 because we still have 2 machines down there that aren't working, and I think she told me it was going to be like $2,500 to get them fixed. That's just outright. So we'll push those through our equipment breakdown insurance, and we'll provide those quotes to them, and they'll just say, either fix it, go ahead and fix it, and we'll help you pay for it, or no, just go ahead and go buy another one, and here's a cost out for you to help pay for that. So either way, we'll use one chunk of change for that and the other. So then, Bruce also suggested that maybe we would want to put out a survey. And then Stacia was also wanting to put out a survey. So we kind of thought that we'd just put it together, really more to let people know that we're going to charge them so that they have plenty of time to get used to the idea of being charged. And we would work on this from now until, let's say, July 1st, that we would get those doors upgraded like it's a summer project or something. And then we would, sort of go live. We would shut off any existing cards that were on there, which would force any users to come in to get a new card. We would charge them, I would prorate it from July to January, have them pay it. And then in every January, then I would just bill them for their annual amount of $50. And if they didn't, then I just turn their card off until they do pay for it and go from there. These are just my thoughts. This is just, I just thought this might alleviate some of that discussion that we thought maybe we needed to have with other entities like the city and that, and where they stand with it. This would kind of.
Well, I'm thinking if we're gonna have that joint city school meeting, is that an agenda item and kind of get it hammered out that night.
Okay.
Because I think the city needs to be involved in it or have a say. And personally, I don't have a problem with them charging the minimal maintenance fee like that. And originally it was supposed to be free, but that was 20 years ago. And we know all those things.
People like, no, we can't charge,
Right.
but we're really getting to that point that
Yeah,
it's $4 a month. They couldn't drive
right.
somewhere for that and work out, so.
I've talked to Bruce a couple times now, Kelly, part of the Education Foundation, and I don't even know I don't even know where, who does what, basically. I mean, it seems like the school, aka Julie, who does all this. And it's like,
And the thing
why
we
is
need
Julie
to
doing all the work? in the
remember is
community?
we clean and all that stuff. I mean, so
We do,
if
but
it gets into,
didn't, somebody said to me, and I wasn't here for the inaugural part of it, but somebody said to me that basically the city worked up some money at some point, and then they said, now, once we do that, we're sort of done with it. So then
I've heard, I've never seen that written, but I think I do kind of.
I heard it, I can't find it anywhere in any of the minutes or anything, so,
Yeah,
and I wasn't part of it, so I don't know.
And that's why I think that let's have this conversation, but let's put pen to paper and create official guidelines for who can do what, when. So we don't have
To go through this again.
swirl all the time.
Yeah.
And people all going, like, let's just document it and move forward. I think that it's a pretty small issue now that we know that there's some funding available. And I think that $50 a year is more than reasonable.
Yeah.
And it's not something that if we're setting it out and then planning to increase it constantly, but it is a very reasonable amount to make sure that we can continue to have it, because the alternative is that it just it's done.
Yeah.
So,
It'll be interesting on a survey to how many would pay $50, because I don't know how well it's being used now. I do not good or bad, I don't know.
Well, according to what Stacia says, she thinks it's getting used quite a bit.
Seems to be people in there.
Yeah, I mean, you go down here at, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's people in there. I'm shocked at how early they're in there.
I'll speak from my grandma's perspective. Her and all of her friends go down there every day.
They do.
My mom is down there almost every day. And I mean, obviously for the lower kids, I
Well-
feel bad about that.
Well,
And-
we've talked about that, and I should tell you this, because it was kind of an afterthought. We thought maybe those 65 or older that we could just waive that fee.
I
because-
say that or offer some sort of like discount or scholarship program, something.
Because apparently there's one lady who lives at the Newton Village and drives over here.
Because it's free.
Well, no, because she wants to exercise with her friends.
Oh, I got you.
Yes. And so,
Okay.
Well, and I was like, I just said to Corey, I think with our sports passes, our 65 and older who live in the community, isn't it
yeah,
$10?
$10, yeah.
It's not very
Yeah.
much. We give them like a totally waive the
Yeah.
the regular.
And I mean, they're not our people who are breaking things down,
Right.
But if nothing else, it's going to get a lot of improperly used cards out of rotation.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big benefits of it, whether we get a bunch of money.
Well,
You're not.
I'm one of those people that, we've got all kinds of cards out there, and I don't even know who's got what. And I'm just not one of those people who likes that, this,
Yeah, I'm like really uncomfortable.
yeah. So,
I guess just looking here though, it's like. It's up to us to approve this card reader and the cards and the system. I mean. Yeah, it's on the school, but where's the wellness center in this? Has the city, I don't feel comfortable doing this tonight and being
We
like,
don't have
and
Yeah,
I don't
we
know, John, you bet through this whole deal.
no, I mean, that's kind of why I guess I'd like to bring it up at that joint meeting and I mean, I think it can be as informal as we decide if the city council's on board and we're on board that night.
I'm
we'll
not
go
saying
ahead
I won't
and
do it, but I
Right,
just wanna-
exactly. Let's
Take
get their input
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
so.
We're all gonna be together anyway.
Yeah, like, 'cause I mentioned to Bruce last weekend, like, it sounds like maybe just a couple people, the board, the wellness center, the council, the foundation, just doesn't need to be everybody, just
Yeah.
make sure, so everybody knows, like, I don't have a clue what's going on.
yeah, and I just know, just from going back and trying to read all the minutes and what the original intent was, because I wasn't here when it went through, so I just trying to figure out what the
I'd
intent
say
is.
kind of what you got here, Julie, have that for that joint.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's what we've come up with and
Like, yeah,
just
for them to,
2885.
And what I would say, I think
400.
annually, we will discuss this at this joint meeting. The funding will roll through X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and
Who's
it's-
going to do what.
It's really a
every year.
standing agenda item on the joint city school meetings anyway, to
yeah,
get
they're
an
usually
update
there,
on it,
station
so.
will get an update, but now it's like, what? Just an update, right?
Just,
Right.
We need to
just work.
figure out
Now
what
we
we're
need
gonna
to
do.
make a decision, or a
Okay.
couple decisions.
I would-
Totally fine, I
I'd
just-
rather Wait till then, but I don't know.
I,
Those things.
Yeah, I wanted to put it in front of you because I knew that Kelly had emailed you, so now you got it.
Yeah, like.
Kind of
Bruce
little
talked
bit
to us
something about it.
Talking a little bit about it too. Got full Bruce, like, I don't really know who's.
And I think, like Julie said, even if we approve it, it's probably gonna be a summer project,
Right.
actually installed.
Yeah.
Is there a big time delay once we say go for them to come and actually do it? Like, do we have we have to get in queue for March or wood emulsion doors? by
Yeah,
next date?
no, I don't think there will be. I think it might be within a week.
Okay.
You know, and
Okay.
so we'll approve our summer projects in April, I think it is. And so this will be, assuming we get all this done, then this will just be on there to get done. And once it's approved, then we'll give them the go ahead. And between April and July, I think is plenty of time for them to come out and do that.
No, that also makes good. I just need to make sure that we're gonna.
Yep.
Or change something.
I got no problem with it, just need to make sure everybody's on the same page.
No problem.
Together.
No problem.
All looks good, just,
Are you okay with the 50? Because that's what was brought to me. I mean, in my mind, it's $4 a month.
I mean, maybe put something in there for like seniors or.
Yeah.
just so it's.
Yeah, I would just be clear on what the.
That's a discussion that
exceptions
we can
are.
have that night too, and also the senior discount, or if it's gonna be free for seniors or whatever.
But it is a lot easier to react to a written proposal. That's, I also wonder, like, for that meeting, we can talk about it in the future. What should we recommend as the guidelines that we, in terms of our control in this project? Like, what are our boundaries, everything else you guys are part of?
I don't
So they
wanna
can be.
approve this and be like, well, the school approved it, so it's their deal now. I don't wanna go down that road.
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
But thank you for coming up with an alternative solution to what they brought forward.
Well, when they're coming in your office, like every other day, and they're like, well, did you figure out anything? Yes.
Yeah, I just want everybody to be on the same page. Just like I say, it'll probably it will all happen, but it's just like.
Sure. Yep.
You know, it's kind of a weird deal that money came through. They wanted it through a 501(c)(3), and Bedco was, but actually the Education Foundation is too, so they
Yeah.
could at this point, but
Which is
That's
a
fine,
little bit in the
it's just,
past, so it was, that's a little.
Right,
and
part
it's
of it's
a
tiny
little
bit.
confusing.
Yeah.
Right, part of it too, people don't, if they wanna donate, they don't
Yeah,
know where to, it's- yeah.
Yeah, so that was something else that we thought we could put on the survey. just,
Publicize it a little
Yeah,
bit. Hey,
you know,
Education Foundation's 501(c)(3), and if you want to make tax deductible donations.
Yeah, we'll just kind of give an overview on that survey or whatever. Thank you.
You on? Superintendent's report.
A lot of the stuff I was gonna talk about, like, I would really want to congratulate Wendy again on the PD. It was so good and so well thought out. I mean, she had put a ton of work into planning the day to have Colfax come over. And then when we saw the weather forecast, we felt just sick for her because it was gonna be a great day. And so I thought it was really creative thinking on her part to get a hold of me and their superintendent and see if we could just get this worked out. So I echo those two. I mean, the sessions I sat in FCS and social studies as the facilitator. And so we jump in and out of the breakout rooms and excellent conversation. They've already made plans, set dates to collaborate again, some great ideas. So it was really, really well done. And so then we have the official one again in April.
Did you just create like a structure to the conversation and then here's some different topics to go into specifically?
Yeah, so she had like a facilitation guide. So, we went through, they talked about their standards and then we have just different frustrations, just a whole list of things. And so in the FCS group, there was just two of them. So I shared the facilitation guide with them. And then in the social studies group, there was 5 teachers, I think. So actually, Mr. Moffitt kind of took the lead because I had to it was on Zoom, so I kept jumping in and out of meetings. So they just answered through the questions and then it also just like a lot of great conversation. And I would assume your guys's were similar. So, just kudos to Wendy. She just did a fantastic job and to the staff because the conversations I heard were really, really good conversations. And it was nice because, you know, we have so many singletons or like, you know, one person that teaches, they're the only one that teaches social studies or the only one that teaches math. So to have somebody else who teaches geography was one they talked about a ton. Just somebody else who can live that same life as you. So it was just nice for them to have that conversation. And then with Jules, our FCS teacher being new, their FCS teacher, I think she said she taught 9 or 10 years or something like that. So just some of the things they talked through, just to have a partner. And now they've made that relationship. So it's gonna be a whole lot easier to send an email to Wolfex Mingo saying, hey, what are you gonna do about like XYZ? Because there's a name and face now. So I thought it was fantastic.
So, I had one teacher say to me that he wasn't tech savvy, so he didn't get on, so he wasn't, those people, did you have a lot of people not be able to get on?
I had one who
The one that said-
didn't take his computer home. and-
Yes, that's the one.
Mhm. I still haven't heard from a second one who I don't know if they were on or not. I mean, there was over 100 people on there, but we got reflections from everybody. So I checked off everybody. I had a reflection from. I didn't have it from her. I sent her today, hey, and I still haven't heard back from her. There were a couple that their cameras weren't working on their device, so we were using Google Meets on all of it, right? So I think there were 2 that there was something they could hear them but couldn't see them. Not great, but at least they had an
Got the job
opportunity.
done.
Yeah,
And actually last time we had PD, when we were in-house, we talked about, the plan for when you miss PD, because we don't want people to just miss on a Monday and then we have this important stuff that we're learning, like just like a student, if you miss class. And then if we have a full day PD and you don't come, you miss out on a full day of learning. So actually Wendy put together a plan with the CIA team. And so, the teachers who miss that day are responsible to, you know, read the learning that we were supposed to do. And then they have to write a reflection, then they have to meet with Wendy or Rob or Zach or one of the coaches. And talk about what they were supposed to learn that day, because if we didn't think it was valuable, we wouldn't be doing it. So we need them to know the stuff. And so we're trying to find ways to, you know, show the teachers that this matters. So it's not a day just to call and say, I do or whatever. So, not that we say that very often. Most of our teachers are fabulous. And they love the learning and they, you know, we have pretty good reports that most staff. So. I sent out a survey to the staff about the calendar. They have 3 options and they're answering that. I haven't looked at it in the last couple of days, but it was pretty much split about a third of what they liked best, what they didn't like best. There's some comments, so I'll compile that and then probably next month I'll bring you the recommendation based on their feedback of, you know, what we want to do. There is some talk that they could potentially change the start date. I don't know if that will happen because right now it's set that you can't start school before August 23rd, which this year or this coming year falls on Friday. So right now the calendar has us starting school on Friday, which we've done in the past. I think my first year here, maybe we started on a Friday. Or second, anyway, we've started on a Friday before, but
Didn't we just do that this year?
no, I don't think so.
Sunday was Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah. So,
Oh, it was part days and then Friday was our
Yeah.
first full day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right now the calendars all have us starting on the 23rd, but if something changes legislatively, we'll create a new calendar.
Are you thinking that it could change to go earlier? Or
Yeah, we'd go, if we could start, like, if they say you can start the Monday after the state fair, which is what, like, originally when the law happened, the Monday after the state fair was August 23rd. So they, instead of saying you can start school, you can't start school until the Monday after the state fair, they put in the law, you can't start school until August 23rd. So it changes. So now this is coming, one of those years, it's gonna be on Friday.
I was
So,
pretty excited when I looked ahead, because the poor kids that haven't state fair
Yeah.
projects, it's brutal.
yeah,
But we wouldn't do that. I mean, we haven't done that, you know, for, that I know of, that we've started during the state fair.
we can't start to,
No, but
I mean, before, when we were doing waivers, I don't even think we did then.
I'm saying like when you're starting the day after it ends.
Yeah.
It's just brutal.
I see.
well, and who knows if they'll even change the law or not. So,
Yeah.
as of now, we've got 3 that all are starting on Friday, the 23rd, with just different variations of where PD days will go and that kind of stuff. And then,
Spring breaks and all three, is that like now contractual thing?
well, it's not contractual,
It's
like,
not
we always
contractual.
say, teachers have to work 189 days, so you pay me now, pay me later, it doesn't matter if you work 189 in a row, or if you
Take a
work
week.
90 and then take Christmas and then work another 90 or 89,
Mhm.
whatever it is. So they just get spread out. So, theoretically, you're not getting paid for spring break because you're getting paid to work 189 days. So if you didn't have spring break, your 189th day would just be sooner. So I think people don't think about that necessarily, like they don't get paid for Christmas break. They're just not working on their 189 days during Christmas break. Well, Christmas, I guess, is actually a holiday. Christmas, like New Year's, they get paid for it. So it just makes their end date longer. But yeah,
Just one of those small things, I was wondering, like, when it got added, is it well loved, is it needed, is it?
and that's
an
another one,
hindrance?
50-50. You ask people, like, do you want spring break? You literally, it will be split down the middle. It's another one that you ask people questions and it's always,
We used to
We'd have
take the
Easter.
Friday and the Monday of
Yeah.
Easter, and then just call her good, unless we had a makeup day, and then we use those 2 days for makeup day, right? So then you didn't have any,
but go.
Yeah, not to open again.
Yeah. Well loved by some, probably less well loved by others. You ask the three administrators in this room, one of us adores it. One of us thinks that if they could get out before they go every single day, get done by May 1st, and I don't know where ass falls.
it's on here.
So. Okay, so there's that. Okay, the other thing, this is what Corey was talking about. Before you guys got on the board, or you three new ones, we had talked with Iowa School Board Association. And we were going to meet to set up a time to talk about district goals and board goals and administrative goals. So my question is, right now it's set for February 1st. Do you want me to contact them and table that since you're gonna have a new principal and a new superintendent, or do you want to still have it and just do it with the three of us? It doesn't matter to me. I just think if we're gonna table it, I just want to let them know.
I don't know what it all involves. I guess, I mean, the goals and stuff,
Really. Been lost abilities.
I'm leaning on you guys here that know about it.
So.
I mean, our goals wouldn't really change, but I guess if we waited until we had a new superintendent and principal, it would be a way to introduce those goals and what our feelings are to them, with
Well,
an ISB
That is it.
facilitator there.
that's I don't know, kind of their opportunity to set their course on how they're gonna take this school into the future. I don't know.
It should be for one administrator's perspective or two, like it has to be a collective vision, because it's gonna carry us into, because how long are these supposed to last for? Is there a time limit on them typically, or do you?
Well, for as long as I've been here, we haven't had board goals, and so kind of this stems from, we've started doing this, high reliability schools and the PLC. So Rob and Zach and Wendy and I and Dennis Vaughn and Bree Crook, those are the two coaches. We've been going to these trainings, and so each building is supposed to set their goals, and then each PLC will set a goal based on the building goal, and then each individual teacher sets a goal based on that goal. But the building goals are supposed to be based on the district goals. And so when we started digging in and trying to say like, okay, well, what are it? Well, we don't have any district goals. I mean, we have not any official district goals. So if we set some district goals that are just our overarching, here's our guiding, this is what we all agree to, then each building can then set their goals. How are they gonna do something to help make that happen? And then how is each individual PLC going to do their part to make the district goal happen? And what's every teacher gonna do to make that district goal happen? So if we don't know what the overarching goal is, everybody's kind of just doing their own thing. And so part of putting in the high reliability framework is we have to have that overarching leadership from this group that says, this is what we want you guys to do, and then we go out and do it.
So
So
you could say on the state report card, we want to
we
get
want
a 90% on,
conditions for living,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
reading or whatever. So that's what ISB will help us walk through that process. So right now we have it on the schedule for February 1st. We can still do that. It might be valuable to have the new administrators as part of that conversation, just so they're a part of the process and we'll have a little more ownership in it. But we don't have to either.
I would say my perspective was that I would be for postponing it purely because we are gonna be here all night the night before, and I want it to be like a really valuable time, and I fear like there could be burnout, and this is a really important thing that I think is great that we're doing. But I do want it to be where everybody that's existing here can still be involved, as well as the new folks, because you guys have been involved in the conversations and know more background, and I wouldn't want it to be just with new folks. That's my opinion.
Maybe if we did something more like May, June, something like that, because we have a new person on board, or the new people on board, but, well, I guess I don't know what Rob's last day.
May 24th, right, Rob?
Whatever you tell me.
But we might have more than days.
So I'll get a hold, and it might be up to also what they have availability, but, yeah, are you guys, I guess that's just Ashley's thought.
I'd say, I'm not speaking for the group, I'm just.
I'm good with the postponement. Kind of getting perspectives from new, current. I'm comfortable with that.
I think we should have everything. Hopefully.
Okay, well, I'll contact IASB. And I'll see if we can get a date rescheduled. Okay, and then I already talked about the law enforcement, not with training, that sort of thing. Right. And then those are just some dates on there, just to be thinking about. But although did we change something? Oh, we don't have we didn't have the joint city school on there.
Not there.
So
It's up in
we
your-
can add that on there once we get that solidified.
It's an actual item.
And, we'll go into exempt session.
I'll make a motion, we go into exempt section.
Second,
Need a roll call?
Nope. But it'll take a time.
So, all in favor, we go into the exempt session, say aye.
Aye.
Exempt session at 7:53.
I need to ask two quick questions here before I speed on. You keep changing dates of board meetings so often in the spring over the years. I was just wondering about the February meeting, if it's gonna be the 14th or the 21st.
21st.
I really didn't think you'd have it on Valentine's Day, but sometimes it has been known to get moved up. That's why I wanted to ask. The other quick question has to do with what you were talking about earlier, because I had commented about research I'd done to try to help, like, your program for your students we were talking about earlier, more effective. There are some really great things out there that discuss things you can be doing to incorporate it into other things. Since you picked April to actually bring it up as a board topic, is it still okay if I just give you some ideas based on the research next time, so you could maybe incorporate it into some of your discussions, and possibly then if you decide to use it, then you would have it as additional information. Because if you didn't want anything done until April, I didn't want to bring that up. But that's okay. What about the cost?
That's a motion.
So go into exempt session now.
I'm gonna run the rest of it.
Break. Break time.
We can, want more water on.